that's what happens next is you get asked to move things. And you get in the bind.
All right. We're pleased to welcome Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang for Team Penske in the NASCAR Cup Series. Hello, mic check. Everybody good? All right, I'll start over. We're pleased to welcome Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Mustang for Team Penske in the NASCAR Cup Series. In addition to previewing the Coca-Cola 600, Joey is here on behalf of Pennzoil to share new original content in honor of National Mobility Awareness Month, which was filmed earlier this year here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Let's take a quick look at the short version of that video now.
This is Joey Logano, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion. This is Torsten Gross, founder of the Just Hands Foundation. This is Joey learning how to drive all over again, using Torsten's hand control system that unlocks performance driving for everyone.
But I thought one of the coolest things you said is that this is the sport where we can compete at an equal level. This opens the door up so much that like being able to competing at the same level, like that's a really cool thing.
Joey, can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me here, guys, today. I hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, this is a really neat program that Pennzoil has partnered up with Torsten and his foundation, and really just giving everyone the ability to drive their vehicle when their mobility isn't quite the same as everybody's here. And they have a great way to trying to help everybody get in the vehicle and drive, and which is your hands with no feet. And was a neat experience. The hand controls bolt right into a car. We had that was a stock Dark Horse Mustang right there, and they bolted it all in there pretty quickly. And you throttle, you turn it, and the brakes, you push it in, and then you strap your hand in on the other onto the steering wheel, and off you go. So definitely a really neat experience. Challenging to learn how to do it because your initial reaction is to hit the brakes with your feet or the gas. But he tied my feet up to the door so I couldn't even use my feet, which we had a good laugh about that. And then we tried driving around the Roval here, so it was cool. I wasn't very smooth for a while. I eventually got a little bit more of a handle on it, but you know the point is it's really neat that he races and that he can compete. Think about it. There's not other sports where a paraplegic can compete with somebody with their legs that are still in normal functioning. And be able to compete together in the same league. And he does that on the weekly. So how neat is that to be able to do that? He was very good at it, much better than me with as smooth as he was. But definitely a really neat experience, something neat that Pennzoil has done to really show how they're pushing forward in a lot of different areas. And just a fun experience for sure. The long version of it is really fun. I would say go to YouTube and go find that on Pennzoil's channels. It's pretty neat.
So going off of that, Pennzoil actually has provided USB drives here in the media center for you guys to see the short version and the long version. So after the conclusion, if you want to come up to the front, be sure to grab one of those. So that sounds like an amazing experience. We're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. If you have a question, make sure you raise your hand. If you're in the back, if you could do it a little bit higher. I'm a little blind. So yeah. All right, we're going to start in the front here, please.
Oh, hey. This is pretty cool. And you talk about you can compete at the same level. Greg Engel with Forbes, by the way. They do it in IMSA in one of their classes where you've got paraplegic racing against regular non-paraplegic drivers. Mm-hmm. Is there an opportunity where this could open up to allow some of this in NASCAR somewhere down the road?
I don't see a reason why it couldn't. It's all about comfort in reps. And that's what I realized as I was driving. I was like, okay, I can see how this is something that can make sense. Getting the car set up for that would be the biggest thing, right? Our car's, pretty stiff steering, you would need a little bit easier steering rack to be able to steer. I mean, you should see how they kind of get your arm in there. There's a couple extra braces to be able to steer it. But I think if you get all that right, I don't see why you couldn't. The upper body strength that you need is ridiculous to be able to steer with one hand for a long period of time. You're never ever putting your other hand back on the wheel. Can't. So, to be able to drive for a long period of time, I think would be hard. I don't think it's impossible. I just think it'd be really, really hard to do that. I think it definitely can happen, though, if the opportunity arose.
And you mentioned it when you came in. Why did you get your CDL? What's behind that?
So I grew up around trucks. My father had a trucking company growing up, so I always drove trucks and really kind of figured I still like driving trucks all the time, but I need to do it legally, apparently. So I went to school. So, this morning we woke up. I drove up to Statesville and took my test up there at the DMV, and I passed it. So that's good. I'm officially a CDL license holder. And so I'm sure now that anytime we get in a bind, I'm be ready to truck. I want to be the first. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't be the first one, but the first one in a long time to drive their truck at a racetrack. So that would be kind of cool to do. But it was a bit of a process. Last few weeks of going to school and learning and driving around on the road. Had a lot of fun. Challenging to do it. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So I was nervous. I told the guy doing the test with me. I said, listen. I drive in high-pressure situations every single weekend. I said, you're making me nervous. I said, he's over there. He's writing there. Every time I make a turn, you're writing something down. I said, you're wigging me out. we were laughing. But, was able to do it. Made the obstacle course. Got it done.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
We're going to go up to the front and then to Bob in the middle of the second row.
Yeah, Joey, Al Pierce from Auto Week. A former teammate of yours recently said he would rather win a lot of races and no championships than a few races and championships. He didn't say how many a few would be, but you've done both. You've won a lot of races, and you've won 2 championships. Which of those 2 areas of this sport do you are most proud of? The championships or the number of wins?
Championships. That's what in any sport, that's mainly what you're measured by. Wins, and you think of basketball or football. They don't ask what was your winning percentage or how many wins did you have, how many rings do you have, right? So they don't ask how many rings do you have. With that said, race wins are a lot harder than football wins. I don't want that to come across the wrong way. And I'll explain why. A football game's a 50-50 chance. We're 1 in 40. You think about that. Race wins are going to be worth more because it's harder to do. The odds are not in your favor to go out there and win every single week. Right? A good season, 6 wins. Right? Especially these days. So really hard to accomplish a lot of wins. So I think you can measure somebody for sure for their success on how many wins they have for sure. But I think the championship thing is always been a really big deal. I think in sports in general.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Bob in the middle of the second row.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. NASCAR fined Ricky Stenhouse Jr. $75,000, which was the biggest fine for a driver who threw a punch. So I'm curious if you felt like that was appropriate.
I'm not going to get in the middle of that one, to be honest with you. I'm glad I'm not in the middle of it. I think really what we all want is consistency and knowing what the rule is and what's okay and what's not okay. That's really all you ask for. Whether it's the car or restarts or altercations, apparently, just let me know the rules is what I want to know. what is the price I'm about to pay if I make this decision, and is it worth it? Right? Like that's really how it's got to be. Is just looking for consistency in that to where it's the same all the time. And I know it's hard to do. That's a lot to ask for because every situation could be a little bit different. It's a judgment call, right? There's no black and white. When you look at a post-race altercation, or what point is. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. I don't know. I'd like to have a little bit more clarity on it, to be honest with you, but I don't know the answers.
All right, and see if you jump in the middle of this question. Last week, NASCAR pushed the start about 15 minutes later to accommodate Kyle Larson. If they do the same this week, is that okay?
Yeah, I think as long as it's within reason. There's a lot of different things that go into this, and as a driver that's been in the sport for a long time, I see that there's more to it than just me driving the race car. When you think about it, start time for the race has been promoted for a certain time. Pushing it back a little bit, I'm sure doesn't really affect much. Pushing it back a lot does affect it a lot. Are we willing to give up ratings to get somebody here that chose not to be here to go race the Indy 500? And that's fine and really cool. Don't get me wrong. It's really cool. But it was his choice to do that. So I don't know at what point was out of reason to wait. But I don't think we should wait very, very long by any means, because I don't want it to hurt the rest of our sport for somebody that showed up late for the race, right? Like, I don't think I can call in and say, hey, I'm stuck in traffic because I left my house late. Can you wait for me? It's not going to happen. I also think this is a different scenario because the cool factor and how it is good for motorsports all the way through. I just think at some point there's got to be a point where we got to start the race. I don't know exactly where that's at.
We're going to go to Seth, and then next to him. He's right behind Bob.
Seth Hager, KickingTires.net. Joey, working with Torsten, what did you learn from that experience, and how has it influenced your perspective on driving and mobility?
Some of the things that I learned the most about Torsten, or with Torsten, wasn't even in the car. It was just how he talked out of the car and his attitude on life, his approach on life. After his accident, you really could have gone one or two ways, right? He could have been in a really bad spot for the rest of his life, and instead he just looked at it as an opportunity and actually, as odd as this sounds, he seemed thankful for his accident because of what came because of that opportunity now that he's made of it. That, to me, was the number one thing I took out of the day. Outside of the car, outside of all the other stuff, attitude is everything in life. And to see a situation where I think I would be pretty down for a long, long time, and I'm sure he was for a while, but he just, one of those people that's going to make the best of any situation that's dealt to him. And there's not many worse from a mobility situation. And he's been able to grow something out of nothing, right? He didn't race before. This is all new to him. So to see that, I think that's the number one thing I took from him and learned from him.
And something that seemed to stick with you in that piece was the fact that racing is the only sport where someone in a wheelchair and someone able-bodied is able to compete on an equal level. How eye-opening was that for you?
Very eye-opening. I can't, to be honest with you, I never thought about it. We've done a lot of things at the Paralympics before with the sled hockey stuff years ago. There's no way that they would be able to compete in the NHL. But with this scenario, I do believe, with enough practice and God-given talent and determination, if there is somebody that can get good enough driving just with their hands, there's no reason why they can't compete Sunday with us.
We're going to go next to Seth.
Steven Stump from Interest.com. Joey, when you were running the laps around the hand controls with Torsten, how much, when you first started, how, difficult was it, having the force of habit to not drive their hands, and, how long did it take for you to kind of get used to doing it?
It's honestly, it's like anything else. The first bit is really easy. To drive down the road, I wouldn't have a problem at all. Just like everybody else can drive down the road here today, right? But when you try to push a car to the very extreme, that's where it changes. And so, when I started, of course I'm going to try to push it. They didn't want me to. I didn't listen. I was going to go. They put me on a racetrack in a Mustang. What do you think's going to happen, right? I mean, let's just be real here. So I throttled her up, and I just wasn't smooth, right? Like driving a car fast it's very important to, all your inputs are very slow. You get the car loaded, you get onto the brakes easy, all those things, and I was just choppy. And the hard part is you throttle, you twist at the throttle, the brake you push. You can do both at the same time. You don't want to, but you can be on the gas and hitting the brakes and getting the car all in a bind. I did that a few times until you can kind of figure that out, right? So you got to just muscle memory, figure out how to do that. The other thing is just like the steering, you got one hand on it. So like the fine tuning, turning that we do, like just the fine increments, I couldn't do that as quickly. When you see our hands in there, they're moving just a little bit at a time. We feel that we're moving there. It was kind of like bigger motions when I was doing it. But I think some of that's just muscle memory, getting better at it. And I was getting tired, to be honest with you. I ran a few laps there. My shoulders were tired. It's just a bunch of muscles I never used. So it's definitely a lot different.
And now that you have the license, and you've obviously been very inspired by this whole thing, is this something you could kind of see yourself doing, working with, well beyond this initial partnership?
Yeah, quite possibly. You never know where life brings you sometimes. Really, all I do is I just go with the flow in a lot of things. You'd be surprised. It's really cool as a race car driver. There's a lot of things that show up your way. And I learned this probably from Kyle Petty more than anybody else. He just doesn't say no. And you'd be surprised the amount of stories and things that you can do in life if you just say yes and go to the event, or go to when something comes your way and you just give it a shot. There's a lot of really cool things that happen. Nobody does it better than Kyle. That's why I brought his name up. He's the one I think of all the time. He's like that movie Yes Man. That's who that guy is. And so I try to be like that as much as I can. Not as much as him, but I try a little bit. And so you never know what comes up next and where I end up. If you told me 10 years ago we'd be sitting where we are today, parts of it I would believe, but not all of it.
All right, thank you, Joey.
Yep.
We're going to come back to the second row. We're going to start on the left side, and then we're going to go to Deb on the right, and we're going to go all the way back and end with Zach in the very last row.
Hey, Joey, no points race wins yet this year, and then you go and win the All-Star race. How much of a jump start, kick start, I guess, can that be for your season? And what in your mind hasn't gone right up until this point with the cup racing?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to go up there and grab a win. Like I said, I wish it was points for sure. But $1 million is still pretty dang good. And I don't think anyone in here would complain about that. So I'm not going to either. Just it happened to be one of those weekends where everything went perfect. Everything car was fast, qualifying was good, led all the laps, everything you can ask for. We haven't had that this year. We've had something happen in almost every race where things are going well and then, that happened. Or we haven't been running, we just didn't go fast. Or just odds and ends, different things. Just been that kind of year for us. Is a long ways to go. We're halfway to the playoffs. We have time to make up and get out of the hole that we're in. Well, we're in a hole. There's no doubt about that. So we'll keep attacking, keep getting after it. The good thing is that win does help the momentum of the team. It helps the confidence. We got them all together a couple of nights ago at my house, and we had a lot of fun and celebrated a win. I came down to the concert last night, and we had a little bit of fun down there as well. So there's a lot of good things that come along with that, and a lot of momentum and attitudes that are a lot happier. And I do think that helps performance all the way through. I feel like that's we kind of needed this good uptick. A lot of good things happening right now in everybody's life. So that's a good place to be.
We're going to go to Deb. If you could raise your hand so they could see you, please.
Deb Williams, Auto Week. Joy, in your Mission 600 visit, you flew in an F-16. How did that visit and that experience change the way you view this Sunday here in the 600?
I would say I've been very fortunate to the point of saying yes to things, to go on some USO tours in my life and visit other military bases, and we do the Mission 600 thing every year and get to go visit a military base and speak to our military. It is, at this point for me, I understand it, at least as much as a civilian can, to realize that these guys are just real badasses that are far superior than me and 99% of the world out there. These people, you can't even, I can't put into perspective. I wish everyone got to go and do some of these things, because you would appreciate your country even more than you already do. It is absolutely incredible to see the commitment, the discipline that these men and women have to put it all on the line for strangers, right? And even, you know, when they go to combat, not even if they come back okay, they've gone through a lot, and their families that are at home for that long period of time. I'm sure there's some military families in this room that understand some of this a lot more than me, but I don't like leaving my family for 2 days at a time. I couldn't imagine months or years at a time. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I don't know, I couldn't help but think about that when I'm there and speaking to them, and you know, at the Shaw Air Force Base. I mean, that's their home, right? So they're at home at the moment. So I was able to meet some of their families too. And even when I was in the jet itself, you were flying around and we're doing all these incredible maneuvers, and all I was thinking, imagine if someone was trying to shoot me right now, though. Like, that's a whole different game, you know, or whatever the mission may be, and you have to make those really, really hard decisions, not whether we should put 2 tires on or stay out. That's a very small decision in comparison to what these people are doing. That's why I love this weekend so much. I really do appreciate it, and my perspective changed years ago because of these things, and I wish that everyone would get to experience that. But I think we do a good job here at Charlotte with the Speedway and Coca-Cola together, trying to not only honor our military as they deserve it, but help our country understand a little bit more of what they go through, and helps us remind us that every Memorial Day weekend, but we should be reminded every day. And I think that's hard to do sometimes because we're in our little world, right? We're in our little NASCAR world, and we think about going in circles every day. And, you know, we think that's a big deal, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the smallest thing in the world when you think about what these guys are doing, for sure. So really cool weekend that we can do that. Thank you, Charlotte Motor Speedway, for doing that. Coca-Cola, it's a really neat thing to do, for sure. And they scared the hell out of me, just so you know.
All right, we're going to end with Zach in the back.
Zach Sterniolo, NASCAR.com. Joey, obviously there's a rooting interest in the Indy 500 with having 3 Penske entries there, but will you be paying any attention to how Kyle Larson does as someone who is representing the NASCAR side of motorsports there as well? Absolutely, yeah. I'm honestly, I hope he finishes 4th. I really do. I mean, I could say that, right? That would be awesome. You know, obviously I want a Penske car to win. Those are my guys, right? Like, this is our team. But I want Kyle Larson to do good.
And he already has. Let's be real. I mean, he's no matter what happens in the race at this point, he's been pretty impressive what he's done there. And I don't know if there's many other drivers that can do what he's doing. He's just got a ton of natural talent that he can just kind of jump in and do this type of stuff. So I think it's awesome he's doing it. Don't get me wrong on what I said earlier. Like, what he's doing is awesome. Really, really cool. Great for motorsports in general. I think it's just as good for NASCAR as it is for IndyCar to have him there. So I think for motorsports, it's great. It's a huge storyline. People are talking about it. I hope it all works out. I hope the weather, I hope all of it works the way it's supposed to. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? But at this point, I'd say you got to call it a success.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Joey, and good luck this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.